Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen Hoil. We have Jazzy Mitchell, Jane Alden, and Ann Tonnell, and we're here from Desert Palm Press to bring you some readings and some discussion on the GCLS conference that we all went to, and anything else we can think of. So, Jazzy, you want to start us off?
Actually, I think that we'll have Jane do her reading first from her work in progress, Evil's Echo. And Jane, why don't you set it up and tell us what the work
I
in progress
will.
is
I'll
about?
set it up and work in progress. Almost finished, I think, this week. So I'm very excited. Evil's Echo is set in New York City in the early 1970s. There are two main characters, Butch Tracy, and Butch is a reporter with the New York Gazette, and Christine Carr. Christine is an NYPD detective. Butch is a nickname that her fellow reporters gave her, and it stuck. And they tease her because she's 5'1" and weighs 90 pounds, and she's spunky. So Butch wants to be a crime reporter, but her editor thinks that women belong on the society beat. And so she covers fancy charity events and so on. But she finally gets her shot on the crime beat when a killer writes a letter to the newspaper insisting that she be the reporter on his story. Christine has recently moved to New York from Buffalo, and she's a detective with the NYPD. She's got her first big assignment. It's the murders of a prominent judge and a billionaire. So Butch lives on the third floor of a brownstone owned by her two best friends, Jean and David. And Christine stays at the Barbizon Hotel for Women, no men allowed above the lobby. And in the scene I'm about to read, the killer has just written Butch a second letter. I dialed Christine at the Barbizon Hotel. The front desk rang her room, and she answered on the first ring. Carr speaking. Christine, it's Butch. I got another letter, this time about the Putnam murder. I struggled to control my shaky voice. The killer delivered it to my apartment. Okay. She picked up on the alarm in my tone. Tell me exactly what happened. Did you see anyone suspicious around your apartment? No, I just got home from work. I didn't see anyone. The envelope was sticking out of my mailbox. No postage and no return address. I can read it to you. Can you bring it to my hotel now? The corner of Lexington and 63rd. I know the place. I'll be right there. I grabbed the envelope and ran down the stairs and out the front door to hail a cab. Traffic was light at that time of night. The taxi stopped in front of the 23-story salmon-colored brick hotel. A green awning over the glass front doors spelled Barbizon in fancy script. Christine was waiting in the lobby. I looked around the space. Pretty swanky. It was once. If you look closely, you'll notice the famous Barbizon has lost some of its luster. It's fine for my purposes. The neighborhood is good, and there's a coffee shop off the lobby for meals and a pool in the basement for workouts. No one ever goes down there. The girls who live here are not the exercise type. So I have it all to myself. I mainly sleep here anyway. She looked at the envelope in my hand. Is that the letter? I nodded. She gestured across the lobby. Let's go to the coffee shop. I haven't eaten yet. Come to think of it, I haven't either. The cafe off the lobby was empty. A waitress popped her chewing gum and waved two menus toward the tables. Take your pick. We chose a booth by the front windows and ordered grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. I slid the envelope across the table. Christine shook out the Halloween card and the letter. She read the letter to herself. The killer delivered this to your apartment? Yes. Do you have any idea what this person's connection to you might be? Not a clue. If you take the letter literally, it's my reporting. Well, there's clearly a link with you that might help us, and it sounds like you're being followed. Jean said the same thing. The waitress set our soup and sandwiches in front of us. Can I get you gals anything else? We said no thanks in unison. She stood back with her hands on her hips. Well, I'll leave the two of you to yourselves. She gave me a big wink. Was the waitress picking up on something like David did? Was I releasing pheromones or something? Was my attraction as transparent to Christine as it seemed to other people? I felt a flush start in my solar plexus and move up my neck. I took a bite of sandwich and searched for something to say. So, what motivated you to leave Buffalo and come to NYPD? She put down her soup spoon and looked out the window. It had started raining. The window glass muted the rhythmic swish of the tires of passing cars. More money, greater promotion opportunities. Her voice trailed off like she had more to say but thought better of it. She picked up her spoon again. Mostly, I was looking for a change of scenery. I've never been to Buffalo, but I suspect you certainly got a change of scenery coming to New York City. Yes, the biggest difference is there's never a downtime. I'm having trouble sleeping because of the constant buzz of activity in the street. I keep wondering what I'm missing. As they say, the city that never sleeps. It takes getting used to. In Wilmington, they roll up the sidewalks at dark. That's where you're from? Yes, Wilmington, the one in North Carolina. You still have family there. She said it like a statement instead of a question. When I tell people about Sisters of the Merciful Heart, they react with pity or curiosity. I dreaded either reaction from Christine. I took a deep breath. I grew up in an orphanage. Her response was neither of the usual. She nodded. That explains it. Explains what? Why you're so self-reliant. I stopped a spoonful of soup halfway to my mouth. That's a good thing, right? Before she answered, Christine looked deeply into my eyes and held my gaze. Have you ever noticed how you go through life rarely ever looking directly in someone's eyes? Sister Marie Madeline used to hold my face in her hands and look deeply into my eyes and tell me how smart I was, and never mind the other girls teasing me about my size. She'd say, don't pay any attention to them. You're special, and you're going to do special things in this world. You'll make your own way. A tiny smile lifted the corners of Christine's mouth. It's a very good thing. We were both fast eaters, Christine and I. We finished our soups and sandwiches, and she signaled the waitress for the check. Are you in a rush? How about a walk in the city that never sleeps? Sounds good. I reached for the letter and card. Christine covered my hand with hers. Don't print it. There are details in the letter only the killer will know. They might help us identify suspects. I can't promise that, Christine. It's my job. I know, and I'm trying to do my job too. At least wait until we follow up on some of the leads. I'll try, but I can't promise. My city editor is giving me a shot at the crime beat, and it's super important I don't let him down. Christine borrowed an oversized black umbrella from the bellman at the front door. Okay with you if we share? We can talk easier that way. Christine isn't an overly tall person, but she's got several inches on me. She held the umbrella between us and put her arm around my shoulders, pulling me close to her side. Sometimes it feels like you fit perfectly to someone. That's how it felt. I wondered if she noticed it too. We crossed the street and headed west on 63rd toward the park. The rain kept up a steady thrumming on the umbrella's taut fabric. Even at the late hour, the sidewalk was full of families wearing heavy coats and carrying blankets and coolers. Christine navigated us around a couple with 3 little kids. Where's everybody going at this hour in this weather? They're headed across the park to line up for Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. They'll camp out on the street to guarantee a good viewing spot. You do know tomorrow is Thanksgiving, right? Of course, but it'll be just another day for me. You don't have family to go to for Thanksgiving dinner? All in Massachusetts, an hour north of Boston, and not exactly a close family. I'll probably go to the precinct and clear the decks for the next week. Skip work and come to dinner with me at David and Jean's. Jean's cooking turkey and all the trimmings, and David's making his grandma's Caro pecan pie. What's Caro pecan pie? She pronounced it pecan, like a Yankee. It's a southern thing, too complicated to explain, even if I had the first idea how to make a pie. But you'll have to trust me, Caro pecan pie is delicious. Are you sure it's all right with David and Jean? Certainly, David always makes way too much food. Only one condition. You have to agree to play Clue after dinner. Jean will think competing against an honest-to-goodness detective is hilarious. And forewarned, he always wins the game. I agree to the condition. What can I bring? It will have to come from the deli. No cooking at the Barbizon, even if I could cook, which I can't. Just bring some wine. Good. See you tomorrow at 4. Thank you. She squeezed my shoulder, and I felt the solar plexus buzz again.
Excellent. Thank you, Jane. That sounds, I can't wait to read the finished version. That sounds really great. And I love that meeting they had, and you can see that connection that they're forming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank
Ellen
you.
Hoil is up next. She's going to read from her recently published book, Osprey Calling, which was published June 7th, 2022. Take it away,
Yes,
Ellen.
it was. Thank you very much, Jazzy. So in Osprey Calling, we have Nicole, who's a wildlife photographer, and Michelle Blake, who's a local nurse at the hospital. And they had known each other a little bit in high school, but now they're meeting up again years later. And they're not too fond of each other when they first meet. So this is one of the first meetings they have, chapter 7, and we'll see how that goes. Nicole propelled herself out of the water, landing high on the bottom of the kayak so she could reach over to grab the opposite side of the cockpit. She pulled with all her strength while she dropped back into the water, flipping the boat as she came down. Nicole pulled herself up and climbed back in and saw the bag with her equipment still attached and breathed a sigh of relief. She grabbed the paddle by the leash, made sure it was secure, and started to paddle. The weather wasn't going to wait while she pumped the boat out. The kayak was hard to move, but not impossible. She wouldn't abandon ship with her equipment in it, not until she had no choice. The waves, current, and wind all worked against her. The water filling her suit was steady but small so far. After about 15 minutes, she took the time to look up, so she was within about 50 feet of shore. Nicole brought the end of the paddle down and pushed it as far down as it would reach. A sense of relief hit her when she felt the sink into the soft bottom of the bay. The wind was dying down, letting her take a deep, steadying breath. Something on the bulkhead caught her attention. She saw someone on the top waving their arms frantically. Nicole lifted herself out and over the side of the kayak. She landed in about 4 feet of water, moved to the bow of the boat, and grabbed the tow line. With all her strength, she pulled it to shore. Once the kayak was safe on the beach, she collapsed on her back, trying to catch her breath. She didn't care that the foul weather had moved south towards the Hamptons as fast as it came in. She closed her eyes and let the adrenaline pump through her heart, waiting for it to slow down. She barely noticed when the woman came down and fell on her knees next to her. "What the hell were you thinking being out there in this?" the woman asked as she took hold of Nicole's wrist, undoing the Velcro cinch. "I don't have the energy to argue this right now. Breathing normally would be nice," Nicole thought as she pulled her arm away and opened her eyes. The sunlight peeking through the clouds blinded her for a moment. "What are you doing?" she said. "Taking your pulse and checking you over." "Well, don't. Let go of me," Nicole said, pulling her sleeve back down. She tried to sit up, but the woman put a hand on Nicole's shoulder and held her down. "Stay here. I called an ambulance." "What? Why?" Nicole said, pushing the hand away. The woman sat back on her heels. "Because crazy me, I thought you might drown. It's freezing out here. I was watching you from up there and I saw you go in, so I called 911. Why would you do that? It's cold and wet out here. Nicole took a moment to focus on the woman. It was Michelle Blake. Crap. What? Call the police? No, yes. I mean, why call? And why were you here anyway? Because it's what I do for a living. I'm a nurse. Saving people is in my nature. Today was your turn. I saw you go over from the bay window. It has a view of the water, and I usually enjoy watching the storms roll in. Oh, well, I don't need a. Nicole stopped when she heard sirens approaching. Her neck muscles immediately stiffened. She stood up and stalked over to the kayak, pulling out her stuff, including her cell phone. Next, she rolled the kayak on its side, letting the water drain out. After repeating it a few times, she put the stuff back in, grabbed the tow handle, and stormed off towards the stairs. She would still need to lug the boat about a quarter of a mile down the road to get back to her car at the town beach. Hey, you can't do that, Michelle said. You need to sit down. Nicole ignored Michelle and made her way up the stairs. She dropped the kayak on the landing as the first rescue truck arrived. Within a sure motion, she unzipped her dry suit and pulled it off, then grabbed her shoes from one of the dry bags. As she sat on the bench to put her shoes on, she tried to ignore the police car that pulled up along with the ambulance, followed closely behind by an EMS truck. A young woman with short brown hair got out of the truck and walked over. With a large bag slung over her shoulders, the uniformed woman, whose name based on her name tag was C. Dowd, set the bag next to Nicole. Are you the one who called us? No, she said in a flat tone, pointing to Michelle coming up the steps. Nicole turned her attention to her camera case to make sure the equipment was unharmed. The EMT raised an eyebrow. Hey, Michelle, what's going on? Hi, Colleen. Yeah, I called this person, Michelle said, waving towards Nicole. Took a swim after falling off our kayak. I was worried she'd drown or might get hypothermic, so I called. Stupid me, she said, throwing her arms up. Nicole grinned at the overly dramatic gesture and sighed as she pulled her head cover off. She knew she was never in true danger. She also knew that if she kept her wits, she would always be fine. What, am I supposed to apologize to you or something? Michelle asked, waving her hands around as she talked. Nicole turned her back to Michelle and spoke to Colleen. I'm sorry we bothered you. I went over, but as you can see, I have a dry suit and a life jacket. I can assure you I'm fine. Well, we're on site now, Nicole said as a man in a matching uniform joined you. I'm sorry. I'll fill whatever paperwork you need, but as I said, I'm fine and I don't want to go with you. Colleen looked her over from head to toe. Nicole knew she looked the mess, which was probably why Michelle didn't seem to recognize her. Okay, I can't force you to come with us. You should be fine. You seem uninjured. Can I at least take your vitals, though? It would help me give some practice. Colleen grinned as she held up her bag. Sure, if it will make your job easier. Yeah, it would. Otherwise, there's more paperwork. Thanks, Colleen said as she kneeled and opened her bag. Michelle was hovering around them. Michelle, why don't you go talk to Mark, give him the police version, Colleen said. As Michelle walked towards the police car, Nicole watched the way her hips swayed. Michelle was still as cute as she had been in high school. The years had added some weight, but it enhanced her curves nicely.
All right. Nice setup for their meeting after so many years when they were in high school together.
They don't exactly get along.
No, they don't. And some strong personalities there. And having read this, I know how you unpack all of that too. It's a great book. Thanks for reading from it.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's see. Ann Tonnell is up next. She's going to read from How Sweet the Sound, which was just published June 14th of this year. Take it away.
Like Jazzy said, I'm reading from my debut novel, and thanks to all y'all who are joining us and listening, because we appreciate our readers. So I'm reading from chapter 3, and as a backstory, Val Scott has come to a rural, economically depressed Georgia community for the plans for a nonprofit casino. She's new to the community, and she knows she needs to meet some key business people to get support, but she doesn't plan to meet them this way. Val's head was spinning, and she thought she might explode if she didn't get a bike ride in. She drove back to the park and quickly ready for a ride to declutter and de-stress. Overcast and cool, perfect. After 18 miles, Val felt a light, misty rain. It broke her meditative cadence, and she realized in her haste she had not checked the forecast. She had not biked a mile into her shortcut before her rear wheel started hissing. Not a flat. No, no, no. By now it was pouring, but she was able to find a flat spot, not too muddy. Typically, she carried a spare tube, but the ride was going to be short, and she hadn't counted on rain. Val was skilled in repairing a tire, but rain does not make for an easy patch seal. She hovered over the tube to block the rain and dried it with one little corner of her bandana. It was 4:30 by the time she reached the park. She was covered with grease. She was drenched and had the hallmark cyclist grain and road grime streak down the center of her backside. These clothes are going to need more than the usual hand washing, Val thought, as she grabbed the rest of her dirty clothes and headed out for the laundromat she had seen on Main Street. Shit, she said. Shit. What if they're not open? What if they don't have somewhere for me to change? What happened to your planning skills, Scott? Oh, yeah, no change and no soap either. She was lucky she had changed out of her bike cleats into sneakers. Val rushed through the front door just as the attendant was closing the top part of the hinged office door. Great, just great. I look like a greasy dork right now, she thought, as she realized it was the cute woman who ran into her at the pizza place. Just remember, you hope to see her again. Yes, Scott, but not like this. Excuse me, hi. Could you please change a 10 before you leave? Val called plaintively as she pulled the basket through. When the attendant reopened the top part of the door, she laughed. I'm sorry, but you need that change. Sure, of course. That's the least I can do for you, right? Yeah, thanks. I had a flat on my bike ride just as it started raining, Val replied. I knew something had happened. I couldn't have guessed what, but I gathered it was on a bicycle. She looked at Val's clothes. I guess so. Val nodded as she looked down at her own outfit, Carolina blue jersey and typical lycra shorts with a saturated pad. She frowned and shook her head. Hey, I remember you. Sorry I stabbed you with my pizza box the other day. The woman smiled as she spoke. It's nice to meet the Dragon Slayer, Val said, returning the smile. I'm Val Scott. I'm staying at Hamburg for a while. I'm Nikki. You'll hear some people call me Lucky, though. My nickname. I was born on St. Patrick's Day. Chief cook and bottle washer of Marshall Coin-Op Laundry. She extended her hand for a shake. Look, I tell you what. Get your clothes in the washer. The soap is on me today. New customer special. Normally I close early on Monday. Normally I close early on Wednesday. Not officially, but no one comes in on Wednesday evening. They're all in church or pretending to be. Oh, I don't want to keep you. Don't worry about that, Nikki interrupted. But here's a proposition for you. You look reliable enough. I'm going to lock up and leave you in here. I mean, you'll sort of be locked in. Use the back door through the office in an emergency. She reached in a cabinet and pulled out some clothes and placed them on the counter of the bottom part of the office door. And here is a shirt, a pair of pants, and socks, way too big, that someone left years ago. Change into those so you can wash those nasty bike clothes. She showed Val the office and the door to the back of the building. I'm going to go grab a few things at the store and grab something for dinner. I'll come back. If you finish before I get back, feel free to shower and clean up in the back room. No sense getting your clean clothes all greasy. Wow, this is not the service one gets in a big city. You'll find most people around here are pretty friendly, especially once they get to know you. All right, Nikki, you saved my life. I owe you one. Val tried to ignore the warmth between her legs as she completed the handshake. What a smile. Val could feel her cheeks redden as she withdrew her hand. Oh, don't worry, I'll collect.
Oh, that was great. What a great meeting that they had there. Yeah. And she's right. I like the dichotomy between a big city and a smaller community and how they act. Thanks for reading that for us.
Yeah. Happy to.
Okay, and now I guess I'm up. I'm going to be reading from Leveling Up, which was published January 24th of this year. It is a contemporary romance set in the video game industry and filled with some of my favorite tropes, including age gap, second chance romance, workplace romance, mentor mentee, employer employee. Well, you get the idea. So, this story describes how Fran receives a second chance to be with the one who got away, a former intern for her company, Haboob Software. The excerpt takes place 5 months after Clark re enters her life. Fran makes two grand gestures to signify her desire to allow Clark into her life more fully, as well as her hope that Clark will step forward to become a more active participant with making decisions on how they spend their time together. This is from chapter 10, called The Next Step. As much as she believes Clark cares for her, may even love her, she has not said as much, nor has she done much to reveal her feelings, other than to accept Fran's advances. When Fran thinks about Clark's unwillingness to take an active role with defining their relationship, she becomes insecure. Not once has Clark invited her out or initiated intimacy. That must change. It's time for Clark to stand beside her, time for her to step up in their relationship. Fran knows Clark is afraid, knows she's taking whatever Fran gives her without demands or complaints. But the relationship cannot grow while Clark hangs back. She needs Clark, wants Clark, as more than a lover. Today, Clark is ready to at least make a token gesture to signify things will change. Although she will not remain lounging in bed, waiting for Clark to open her beautiful eyes, she will also not leave Clark to her own devices this morning. Her daughter has accepted her feelings for Clark, and Fran can think of nothing preventing her from risking her heart other than fear. And wasn't it her fear which kept them apart for so long? Carefully, Fran rises from the bed and wraps her robe around her body before leaving the room. She makes her way to the kitchen, pausing in the doorway when she smells fresh coffee. Elaine? Fran watches her daughter as she raises her head from its resting place on crossed arms. She looks like she dozed off at the kitchen table. Her daughter is an adult now, able to understand romantic entanglements and the inherent complexities that come with trusting someone to such an extent. Her approval is important to Fran. Even though she is a college student, once the press finds out about Clark, their relationship will become fodder, and that will affect all their lives. As one of the few female CEOs in a predominantly male industry, her personal life is prime real estate for the ravenous horde of reporters hoping to provoke them into saying something they might regret. They will be frothing at the mouth once word gets out of her new romance. She's surprised to find that she doesn't care what they say about her. As she examines her internal landscape and feels nothing but jubilation for having Clark in her life, relief flows through her. She feels a bit giddy. She realizes quite suddenly that she's happy, genuinely happy, and it is all due to the sleeping beauty upstairs. When she first began seeing Clark, she knew she needed to tell her daughter. Although the media might not guess the nature of her relationship with Clark, Elaine would. Over the years, Clark's name came up many times. Her daughter had taken a shine to Clark after meeting her at the office, and she noticed when Clark was no longer sitting in the pit at Haboob. She also noticed how lost Fran was. Although young, Elaine recognized something was hurting her. So when Clark returned, Fran confided in Elaine. She told her what happened and her plans to keep Clark in her life. Shaking her head, Fran remembers Elaine's enthusiastic reaction. "It took you long enough. Go get your girl. Let yourself be happy." That little push was all the incentive she needed. Armed with breakfast, Fran takes a deep breath before making her way upstairs and opening her bedroom door. She enters slowly and sees wide chocolate eyes staring at her, emotions revealing themselves like slides illuminated by a projector. Confusion, disbelief, shock, joy. Placing the tray on the floor, Fran leans over and kisses Clark. She takes her time, giving her the chance to catch up, to accept this change in their lives. Once she feels Clark kissing her back with an exuberance that echoes through every inch of Fran's body, she indulges for a few more moments before pulling back. Loving the dazed happiness Clark projects as her eyes flutter open, Fran's lips quirk up as she drawls, "Good morning, Clark." Clark's adorable shy demeanor as she answers with her own greeting wraps around Fran's heart. She picks up the breakfast tray and places it over Clark's legs before slipping under the covers. We are planning to see Wicked at the Gershwin Theater today. Fran sips her coffee. Would you like to join us? We can eat at that tourist trap you love so much afterward. She studies Clark's reaction, wondering whether she will understand how grand a gesture she is making. Her willingness to share with Clark the precious time she has with her daughter is no small act. Time with Elaine has become limited, as she fills it with school and friends and work and exploration. She's young and unafraid of the future, and remarkably busy living life. It occurred to Fran the previous night as she lay in bed gazing at Clark's sleeping form that they had fallen into the bad habit of always meeting for a meal before returning to Fran's home to be intimate. They did not spend time together just for the sake of relaxing or talking or sharing. Fran wants to change that. She wants more than meals and sex. She wants Clark to impose herself into her life, to make demands and not fit so neatly into her schedule. She wants some overlap, some unexpected interactions, some proof that Clark is willing to fight for their future. She wants Clark to call her and ask her on dates and invite her into her home. She wants to hear about Clark's family and friends and writing poetry. So, 2 grand gestures today, surely some type of record for Fran. What Clark does to her. She inspires Fran to want to take risks, to make these grand gestures for both of them, to push through her fear and Clark's fear. I would love to. Clark's words fill Fran with hope. It is a start, and although she dearly wants to make love to Clark right now, she instead tangles the fingers together and asks her about her current project. She needs to take small steps to avoid spooking her, and self-control, lots of self-control. She will open herself up more, become more transparent, with the hope Clark will reciprocate. She's playing the long game here, and the stakes are too high for her to make a mistake like pushing Clark too much or making too many demands. It's a process, building trust, and Fran is willing to be patient. She has the girl. She will not watch her walk away. Thank you.
Cool, great. I love that trope.
Thank you.
They sound like they're going to have an exciting time ahead of them.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have some great books that we offered everyone. I think before we sign off today, I'd love to talk a little bit about the GCLS conference that we all attended at the beginning of the month. So I have a couple of questions, actually. I guess what I'll ask first is, which panel or event did you enjoy the most during the conference?
Well, I went to one about tropes.
Oh,
And
okay.
I really enjoyed that. And what was interesting about it was that a lot of authors don't consciously outline or start thinking about I'm writing in a certain trope, but the story sort of falls in that way.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. And it's wonderful to see. Well, there are only so many tropes when you think about it. So it's fun to see which tropes speak to different readers too.
And I think a lot of authors don't even think about it till after they've done it, and they're trying to market the book, and they're like, "Wait, what did I write?"
Isn't that true?
Yeah. What category can I fit this into?
Right. So
I really like the author readings. I thought that was fantastic, especially the writing academies. The people that I guess that were graduating, but they it was just really cool to read their stuff and how excited I think they were to be able to have that forum.
Yeah, definitely. I love the author readings. I love learning about new authors, or and some of them aren't new to this world,
Right.
or this niche, but certainly might be new to me. So I do love sitting in those and listening.
I liked how they offered panels for both the readers and the authors. So you could learn your skills as an author, but you could go to a panel and learn something new as a reader as well.
Oh, definitely. That's for readers and for writers of all levels. I think that's tremendous and something that we always want. And even if we are an experienced writer, we can always use that time in a panel to be reintroduced to some concepts that we already know, but maybe need a refresher on. And I have to say, I love the keynote speaker, Cherie Greer. She was so good, very inspirational to me. I just had tons of ideas after listening to her. She really inspired me with her words.
Yeah, I think they had a really good speaker this year.
Yeah, I think so too. She's just wonderful. So I have another question. Outside of the scheduled events, what did you like the most during the conference?
It was being together in person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Coming out of COVID, I guess we may be going back into it, but just being in the company of our community of lesbian fiction writers and readers and publishers, and that was great. And to see kind of how the organization is evolving, much more diverse, I think, than on the last time we were together, and which I think is a good thing. But just being in a group in person was great.
I like the location was nice. I took a trolley ride the first day that went around the town. So we got to see all kinds of cool things. Because I had gotten there the day before. So it was interesting. And then the get together we had as a publishing house was
great.
That was nice. Yeah.
Dare I say it? Tequila.
Tequila. Lots of tequila.
Ellen's birthday, celebrating Ellen's birthday. That was fun.
Yeah. It was fun. And the trolley tour, I went on the trolley tour too, and it was a lot of fun. I never actually spent much time in Albuquerque, so it was a new venue for me, and I loved just finding out information, both historical and also more popular, entertaining history of the area. Anyone who likes Breaking Bad, for instance, such as myself, it was fun to see some of the actual houses that were used for their settings. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Ann, did you want to add anything before I move on?
I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I mean, it was nice. The in-person thing in general, but hanging out with colleagues from the same publisher. I don't know. It was nice.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. Yeah, it was so fun to see all of you, truthfully, and just getting to catch up on things in person is very different than on Zoom or on this platform. So seeing each other, it's just a different level of connection, and I loved it. I love seeing all of you.
Yeah, with or without tequila.
What? Yeah. It felt different because the first one I went to was in Pittsburgh, the one in Pittsburgh right before COVID.
Me too.
And my book hadn't come out yet, so it was a whole different feeling going as a published author.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, very different. So now let me ask a different question. What do you wish GCLS included or did differently?
I think the one thing that was lacking that they had done in Pittsburgh was they had filmed all of the panels and readings, and then they said 6 months later they uploaded them to the YouTube channel or the website, and I think that was missing. So there were panels that if you didn't get to see in person, you were never going to see, and I think that was a lack of foresight on their part. That was a really good opportunity for them to educate more people.
Well, I do think it was a missed opportunity. I think you're right there because usually, always there was more than one event happening at a time in the schedule. And so, you're going to miss one or two other things you might have wanted to see. And they're not recording it was meant that you're never going to see it. So that really was too bad. And, I looked on the website and there used to be past events that were recorded on the website and photos and stuff like that. But all that's now gone. So, yeah, that's really too bad. Ann, you were going to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, especially when like the author readings in Pittsburgh, they were all in the morning, so they didn't conflict with other things. And I think having that forum for authors to be able to read, both to readers and other authors, is lost if you can't attend those because you have something else that you would like to see or really need to participate in, and then you miss the reading.
Yeah, I think that the scheduling was tough at times. I know for my own reading, we didn't have that many in the room because there were two other things happening,
Right.
and they were, so they all get kind of split. Jane, any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I'd like to make a pitch for the Left Coast Lesbian Literature Conference.
Yes, what's that?
Which is in October, and it's much smaller group, and there's not conflict between the presentations or the workshops or the question and answer periods, so you can attend everything. And
Right.
I don't know, maybe 200 people come. I don't know. Is it maybe
It's not that many. No, I think it's under 100, but it is an awesome conference.
Yeah, October what is it?
5th through the 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's in Palm Springs. And if anyone does want information on LCLC, you can actually look it up on Facebook, or you can look it up online. Just look up Left Coast Lesbian Literary Conference. Yes. Get that?
Yeah. I'm hoping to go for the first time this year, so it should be fun.
Yeah, it is fun. And as Jane pointed out, there's only one thing happening at a time. So we all kind of go as a group to each of the events. There's author readings, there are panels, there are presentations, food's included. You stay at the hotel where the conference is taking place, which is nice. So you just get to bond with readers and writers and publishers. It's a great time, and I really do think that if anyone who wants to go, you really should. I know there are a few more spaces left, definitely, and I'll be there. I know Jane will be there. I know Ellen's trying to be there, and maybe Ann. Is there hope? Maybe, I don't know. A little bit of hope. The other thing that a couple other things that I was thinking of that I would have liked to have seen during the GCLS conferences. One is the list of attendees. I think that would have been a lot more helpful, so that I knew who was going to be there. For instance, I found out after the fact, after I was there, that some authors were there that I would have liked to have signed books that I had already purchased in the past. So of course I didn't bring those books because I didn't know they would be attending. So it would have been nice, And then of course because I'm a total foodie and I live and breathe by when's my next meal. I would have liked to have had the breakfast included.
Yeah,
that would have been nice. Anything else that you want to bring up or about good, bad, indifferent about the GCLS con?
I do think that, I think the board was like everybody was new, weren't they? And so they didn't have that in the board for the last time. I think it was a board that had been there in place for a long time. So, I think hopefully, they'll learn from this and grow. But I do think we have to acknowledge that, they were new.
Yeah. I think they did a lot of things right, but there were just some things that they missed the mark on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the ones they missed the mark on were the bigger things.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common when you have a new board coming in, that they're going to make some mistakes, especially if they're not collaborating with the outgoing board. And to put all of that, make it even worse in some ways, is because we did not have an in-person conference for a couple of years, 2 years. So third year coming back, that's a lot of pressure right there to get it right. And when you have a new board that hasn't done it really in the past, even if they've done something that might be comparative, I think this is its own beast. So some of that wasn't done or wasn't executed as well as we would have liked. But I think on the whole, I was just so excited to see all of you and see other authors and then meet people that I've been talking to for the last few years online. That was wonderful. And I'm so glad that we're starting to do that. So I really hope, Jane, that they're not going to start shutting things down again because of COVID and the flares that are happening here. I really don't want that to happen.
That would be bad.
That would be bad. It would be very sad too.
It would be sad.
Don't make Jazzy cry. It's bad. Well, thank you, all of you, for being here today. That was great. I loved hearing your excerpts. For you watching out there or watching it later on, please do check out our books because, we love writing for you and we'd love to hear back from you. So thank you, everyone, for being here today.
Thank you. All right.
Oh,
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
bye.